all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves
Time, folks. Enjoy the show.
Hey, just like a lot of people, my first driving experience was a fond memory of my childhood. When I was 13 years old, me and my mom had decided to go camping just outside of Las Vegas, New Mexico. And of course, we had forgotten a few things, so we went into town to get some supplies. That was when we saw the Fort Union Drive-In Theater sign. We went that night, and I was amazed at the whole experience. And even though we saw a double feature of both the terrible White House Under Attack movies that came out in 2013, I'm talking about You, White House Down, and Olympus Has Fallen, the whole experience just completely captivated me. The ginormous widescreen somehow made Gerard Butler look even more broody. Slight static from the car radio made Morgan Freeman's voice even more velvety. But all jokes aside, drive-ins are amazing. And just like regular theaters, the history of them is not really common knowledge. And yeah, so I'm here to tell you about the rise, the fall, and the rise again of the drive-in movie theater. So it all started in Campton, New Jersey in 1933 with a man named Richard Hollingshead, who was rumored to have come up with the idea because of his mother's discomfort with sitting in conventional theater chairs. So he placed a 1928 Kodak projector on the hood of his car, hung some white sheets, and placed a radio behind the screen for sound, and the drive-in was invented. Then in 1933, he patented the idea and opened the first drive-in, which was what it was called at first till the name drive-in caught on later after World War II. At the same time, he also patented his design for allowing every car to see the screen by spacing out the cars and putting them on a slight incline so their view of the screen wasn't obstructed by the car in front of them. Advertised as a place for families where the parents wouldn't have to worry about how loud their kids were. This idea grew in popularity with over 60 drive-ins being opened in the next 8 years before the war. The drive-in didn't really catch on till after World War II, though, for a few reasons. The first being that the gasoline shortages during the war forced many Americans to stay off the roads and out of their cars as much as possible. Also, the invention of the in-car radio and drive-in speaker were not invented until after the war, making sound films hard to enjoy. This all changed with over 1,000 drive-ins being constructed in the 4 years following the war. Drive-ins were also cheaper to construct, costing around 20% of the price compared to indoor theaters of the same capacity. Also, the land outside of towns and cities where most drive-ins were located was incredibly cheap, making it easier and cheaper to open and construct a drive-in than a conventional indoor theater. Also, this was the time when the drive-in speaker became more popular, making sound movies more applicable to the drive-in. This doubled with the rising car culture of the baby boomer generation, and general economic growth in the middle class led to the explosion of drive-in popularity during the 50s and 60s.
This is fun, huh?
Yeah, great.
The show. Once again, thank you for coming to our theater tonight. Have an enjoyable evening.
What?
The biggest pro and the biggest draw of the drive-in was the freedom that it allowed. They offered families entertainment, people could sit in their cars, they could bring their babies, they could even smoke. Drive-ins offered more flexibility than indoor theaters. This kind of freedom was not only applicable to families, though. This was also a huge draw for the teenage and younger audiences. Also, drive-ins were typically cheaper, with many of them charging per car or less per person than regular movie theaters. This is even true now with the Balloon Fiesta Drive-In in Albuquerque, which charges $20 per car for its general admission, meaning a family of 4 can watch a movie for only $5 a person. The biggest con for the drive-in is the fact that it's an outdoor venue. This means that since drive-ins could only show movies after sunset, this made them less lucrative than their typical counterparts who could show movies all day. This also meant they were subject to weather, making them seasonal in many parts of the country. The second con being that most drive-ins showed second-run movies or B-movies. The first reason for this is that most drive-ins are family-run businesses. They can't afford a cost of running first-run movies. Also, many distributing companies also had rules where first-run movies had to be played at least once a day. Since many drive-ins only had one screen and only showed a few movies a day, this made it impossible for them to run first-run movies even if they wanted to.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.
Intermissions were a huge part of the drive-in experience. With most drive-ins showing double, even sometimes triple features, an intermission was vital to giving the audience a break. Intermission, there was usually an animation or video that would serve two main purposes. The first being to advertise a snack bar or restaurant that was the main source of income for the theater. This was done with either short showcases of what was available or short skits with different snacks. The most famous being the performing hot dog, which honestly I don't know if I love or want to burn with fire. The second purpose being to inform the audience of how long till the next picture started. This information was sandwiched between the skits and advertisements, and usually updated every minute or two. This was done because many people would walk around or visit the snack bar during intermissions, allowing them to know how much time they had until the next showing.
And now, on with the show.
Something to you.
To you? You think I'm gonna stay here with you in this sin wagon? You can take this piece of tin?
Sandy, you just can't walk out of a drive-in.
Drive-ins peaked in popularity in the 50s and 60s, with there being over 4,000 of them worldwide by 1958. This all changed in the last few decades of the 20th century, though. Just like typical theaters, as television became more popular and the advent of things like the DVR drove attendance down. Because of this, many drive-ins turned to more exploitative and naughty pictures in order to survive, which worked for a time but drove off many families. And as many towns and cities grew, many of the drive-ins which were built just outside of town were now located in developing neighborhoods. This combined with lower attendance made it a better financial decision to sell your drive-in so it could be torn down and replaced with apartments or shopping malls. These factors all contributed to the fall in popularity of the drive-ins, with there being less than 400 in the United States by 2008. And in recent years, with the film industry moving to digital, many films are now only released as digital copies. This forced many drive-ins to either pay around $150,000 to buy and install a new digital projector, or to only show classic movies, which caused many more drive-ins to close. Since the COVID pandemic began, almost all theaters have been closed. And with social distancing built into the drive-in model, they have started to pick up again. Even Walmart has jumped onto the trend, retrofitting their parking lots to show films. And that leaves a few questions. Will drive-ins actually survive after the pandemic, or will they just fall away into obscurity? I guess only time will tell. But this is the part of the video where I please beg you to go to a drive-in. It is the coolest thing you'll ever do. If you haven't gone, there is one in Albuquerque that the city set up, and there's also a Walmart one. But I would try to recommend going to an actual family-owned one because it does feel way better. One, it feels more retro in a cool way. It also supports a small business that's kind of disappearing in America. So, yeah. Well, thank you for watching.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves lobby.